Hello folks, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking a little bit more about ear stretching. Specifically, maintaining size once you're at your goal size and naked training for your ears. Now this video is going to go over how to, once you get to your goal size, to stay there to help maintain that size and not let your ears stretch any further, but also not let your ears stretch down. But first, let's talk about naked training. What even is it? So naked training is the process of training your ears to go naked or without jewelry without losing size. Now I know some other folks have used different terms to refer to this. I've heard people call it letting their ears rest or giving them resting time, giving your lobes empty time. I've just always heard it referred to as your lobes are naked without jewelry in it and it's naked training. That's always what I heard it referred as, so that's what I'm going to keep calling it. And now a key and important factor here in naked training is that it's letting your lobes go without jewelry without losing size. So it's not just taking out your plugs and leaving your ears empty for however long. It's doing that without your ears shrinking to where your goal size, your current size, doesn't fit anymore. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, Lynn, I just spent years stretching so that I could wear cool jewelry and plugs. Why do I want to train my ears to not have to wear them? I stretch to wear stuff. And that's because there's a lot of health benefits to naked training and to giving your ears some time to rest without jewelry. And it's going to be the key factor in helping you maintain size and not having your ears stretch up and continue getting bigger and bigger. Now, why would we want to naked train our lobes? What are the benefits? Well, the biggest benefit is probably health for your lobes. Giving your ears some time without plugs or without jewelry in is going to be beneficial to every single person with stretched ears, bar none. There are some folks who have pretty oily skin. Their bodies just produce a little bit more oil, their skin's just a little greasier, and the same thing applies to their ears too. And if they leave plugs in all the time 24/7, a lot of the natural oils from their skin can get built up between the plugs and their ear, and they can suffer with moisture irritations, commonly known as wet ear, with even ears that have been at their goal size for years. And on the complete exact flip side, there's plenty of people with lobes that are really dry or who are really dry skin prone. They tend to get a lot of cracking, just like painful dry skin. And for those clients, if they don't take some time to moisturize their ears without plugs in and give their lobes the opportunity to really absorb that moisture and get healthy and happy, they can end up with dry, cracking skin on their earlobes, or even the skin where the lobe meets the face cracking. And now before you go, oh, well, I don't have oily or dry skin, so I don't need this. Everyone benefits from circulation boosts when it comes to leaving your lobes without jewelry. Now, these benefits increase as we start talking about larger and larger lobe sizes, but whether your goal size is a 0 or 2 inches, you're gonna benefit from some added circulation. And what that means is that all day long when you're wearing plugs and jewelry, that jewelry is putting pressure on the ear and on the piercing itself, typically along the bottom of the lobe. That's what's supporting the weight of the plug. And that does also mean that constant pressure of your jewelry does limit circulation a little bit. Now, I'm not talking about limit circulation where like circulation's cut off and your ear is gonna turn black and fall off and die, but it is pressure on the skin there. I would say it's pretty comparable to wearing a super tight pair of shoes. No one would want to put on like a really tight pair of heels or brand new boots and wear them 24/7 and sleep in them and never ever take them off. That would be very bad for our feet. And it's kind of the same thing for our earlobes. If we just leave our plugs in all the time always and never take anything out, it's just not the most healthy, and we do have some decrease in circulation, especially to the more fragile lower portion of our lobe while we're wearing jewelry. A really great visual example of this is the difference between my lobes after a full day of wearing heavier plugs versus first thing in the morning when I wake up having not had plugs in for 8 hours while I'm sleeping. So here's a little picture of what my ears look like when I take plugs out at the very end of the day. You can see that things are still healthy, but they're definitely stretched out. My lobe doesn't look super thick or super plump. It's still healthy. I could keep wearing jewelry for days, but here's a look at what my lobe looks like first thing in the morning, and look at how plump and how healthy and how full that tissue is. It went a full 8 hours without jewelry in it, so full circulation could return to the area, and it's just really happy, and it's a pretty big difference. Now remember, the key to naked training is leaving your plugs without jewelry without them losing size. Now, even though there's a really big visual difference between my ears after a full day of wearing plugs versus first thing in the morning, 8 hours, no jewelry, they're still the same size. My 1.5-inch plugs go in pretty easily both times, whether it's right in the morning or at the end of the day. My lobes are just a little tighter, they're a little plumper in the morning, they're not as like weighed down from having the jewelry, and you can really see the benefit of that added circulation. But this picture difference also brings us to the second big benefit, and honestly probably the primary reason why anyone would be interested in naked training: size maintenance. As you might imagine from looking at these pictures, yes, my plugs do feel a little tighter going in the morning when I haven't been wearing any jewelry. It's not uncomfortably tight, it's not painfully tight, it's honestly not even a huge difference, but it's tight enough that my lobes on my plugs are not falling out all day long. Now, anyone who has stretched up to a certain size, especially someone who leaves their plugs in all the time, has had the experience of turning their head too fast and their plug just flinging out of their ear and falling, or going to answer a phone with your shoulder and knocking your plug straight out of your ear. Lobes naturally stretch. We talked about this in my How to Stretch video. If you haven't watched it, go to, so it's got a lot of good information. But our ears naturally loosen up over time from wearing earrings, and that process doesn't just magically stop because you're at your goal size. Your lobes don't know, oh, we're at 1.5 inches, this is where we want to stay. No more loosening. Your body's just not that smart, so that process continues to happen. And while yes, you could just leave your plugs in 24/7, sleep in them, always have them in, and just deal with the annoyance of them falling out all the time and being really loose and losing them in bed while you're sleeping or when you answer the phone, most folks don't want to deal with that, and it's a really great way to lose or break expensive or cherished or important plugs, and can leave folks feeling like all they can wear is grippy silicone or cheap stone because they lose or break everything else. And the answer to that problem is naked training. And by sleeping without jewelry in and having these naked trained lobes, I can maintain my size. So at night, I'm getting the health benefits of not having any jewelry in. My skin is getting some time to breathe. It's getting some time to rest. My lobes are getting added circulation. I even will moisturize my lobes before bed so they have like some nice time to get really healthy. And then in the morning, my lobes are just a tiny bit tighter, just enough to where my plugs aren't going to fall out, but everything still fits. And that's the key to size maintenance with naked training. Now, a quick caveat before I start explaining how to go about naked training your lobes is that this is probably not for you if you are still stretching. Now, there are some folks who can naked train their lobes to maintain size and still have enough looseness to stretch up every 3 months or whatever their timeline is. That's not most people. Most people, naked training helps with size maintenance. So if you're planning to stretch to 1 inch and you're watching this video right now and you're at 3/4 and you decide to start naked training your ears, you're going to maintain your size at 3/4. You're probably not going to make it all the way to 1 inch because you're maintaining that size there. You're giving your lobes some time to rest and tighten up so they stay at the size that they're currently at. So if you are still stretching, it's still helpful to give your lobes some time without jewelry in. I normally suggest massaging your lobes daily during the stretching process and giving them like 10 to 15 minutes without jewelry in, but naked training your lobes, and especially sleeping without jewelry in, is going to be used for size maintenance. So if your plan is stretching, it's probably not going to work. So just as an aside, now no one comes on here and says, Lynn, I was trying to stretch my ears and you told me to naked train them and I did, and now I haven't gone up sizes in months. This is for size maintenance at your goal size. Now, just like it says in the name, this is naked training. You are not going to take out your plugs today, sleep with them out for 8 to 12 hours, and then have them pop back in easy peasy in the morning like it's nobody's business. You need to train your lobes to have this kind of size maintenance. It doesn't happen automatically. So how do we go about doing that? So you're at your goal size, you're happy with your ears, this is where you want to stay, you want to maintain size. Depending on how tight your ears are, I would suggest starting with 15 to 20 minutes. If you know that your lobes are pretty tight, jewelry tends to not fall out often, and it can be tough to get jewelry in short periods of time. Start with less. If you have super loosey-goosey lobes and your plugs are flying out every time you turn your head, maybe start with an hour. What you're going to do is you're going to take your plugs out, put them somewhere safe where you won't forget where they are. I'm the worst about that. And set a timer on your phone for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever that time frame is. When that timer goes off, take your chosen lotion, balm, oil, whatever you like to use to massage your ears, give your ears a quick little massage, and pop your plugs back in. If they were really easy to slide back in, there wasn't much resistance, they felt super comfortable, next time you do it, try doing it for a little bit longer. So if you did it for 15 minutes, try 25. If you did it for an hour, try an hour and a half. Now, when you get to a point where when you go to put your plugs back in, they feel a little tight and a little uncomfortable, you're gonna stay at that time frame for a while. So let's say you left your plugs out for an hour, and when you went to put them back in, it was a little tight, it was a little tricky. Leave them there, give them a day to rest. The following day, take them out for an hour again, give them a good massage, pop them back in. Continue doing that, alternating days on and off, until you get to the point where after an hour, it's pretty easy to put your plugs back in. Then try an hour and 15 minutes. Do the same process. Try an hour and 30 minutes. Do the same process. You're going to keep doing this and incrementally adding more time to how long you leave your plugs out until you can leave them out for about 8 hours consecutively and they go back in somewhat easily. Once you're at that point, you can start trying to sleep with them out. Now, some folks will find that, sleep times can be variable. You may want to train your lobes up to a longer time before you start sleeping with them out. You may find that after sleeping is easier for you to get them back in. All bodies are different, so you'll want to do some experimentation and training. And remember, this is training kind of just like working out your muscles. So you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. If, let's say, you're really susceptible to weather and it's winter time or it's really cold out where you are, your naked training might progress very slowly. And you might have to take a couple days off in between doing these training sessions on your lobes to keep your ears happy. On the flip side, you might be like me. I started naked training my lobes and they just were fine with it. Like, it was only a couple of weeks before I was leaving my lobes out for a full night's sleep. My ears were just happy as a clam to have no jewelry in and retain their size really well. It's not the case for everyone. So listen to your body, go slow. When in doubt, do smaller time increments and really monitor it. And be careful. Now, a key element with naked training, or just kind of leaving your lobes without jewelry in general, is that you want to use some kind of lubricant or moisturizer when you put your plugs back in, especially if you haven't had plugs in for a while. Honestly, even if you had, it can be really irritating to your skin to just push those plugs in on dry, unmoisturized skin. So please, no matter what, always use something to assist you with putting your plugs back in. I have little containers of my favorite lotion and moisturizer for my ears, literally all over my house. There's one in the bathroom, there's one on my nightstand, there's one on my vanity, there's one with my plugs and my jewelry, there's one on my bookshelf by when I leave the house. I have them all over the place because I'm always wanting to use product to help put my plugs back in and make sure that they slide in easily and smoothly. Now, some folks, even with product, simply have naturally really tight ears, and a lot of times this happens when folks have scar tissue, especially if you blew out or tore at smaller sizes, or if you're stretching from lobes that were pierced with a piercing gun when you were very little and you had a lot of scar tissue develop from that. So some folks, while they do benefit from naked training and need that for the help of their lobes, also find this process to be very, very difficult for their ears, and that is not super uncommon. Those folks typically find that the key to successful naked training is hot showers. So taking out their plugs, leaving them out for whatever length of time, and then when they're ready to put them back in, timing that with when they're going to take a nice hot shower and giving their plugs and their ears a nice good massage and a good rub in the shower and in the heat and steam to get things really loose, and then popping their plugs in. And I know many folks who do successfully naked train their lobes. They're able to sleep with their jewelry out just fine. Their lobes maintain size. Everything's great, but they are not getting plugs back in without taking a nice hot shower first. And now that does mean that there are some folks who have enough scar tissue that they really can't realistically go without plugs for any length of time. Their earlobes just immediately shrink no matter what. And almost always this is from scarring. This is from either stretching incorrectly and tearing or blowing out, using unsafe plug materials, or just having a lot of scar tissue built up with your initial piercings in general. Now, I would say this is relatively uncommon. A lot of times I see folks who think they have ears like this, but they just need to take their time with naked training. I've had clients take a year to train their lobes to be able to sleep with jewelry out. So it's not always going to happen overnight. It's not always going to happen in a month. It might take you many months to get to the point of doing this. So I will say that's not super common, but every now and again I meet someone, typically they have a pretty bad blowout and naked training is just not in the cards for them. They try it and they never make it past a 15 or 20 minute increment. Their lobes are just super tight from that scar tissue. If that's the case, you need to work one-on-one with a piercer to figure out what is going to be safer options for you. I've done everything for those clients from alternative jewelry methods to downsize, upsize sizes to special pillows for sleeping on. It really all depends on the individual situation. But if you are trying naked training and you just genuinely feel like you're getting nowhere at all after like a month or two of doing this training and these exercises for your ears and really trying and committing to it, it's probably time to speak with an experienced piercer and get their input on your ears. And the big takeaway I want you to take from that is that slow progress isn't the same as no progress. If you are naked training your ears and it's just taking longer, if you're only up to 45 minutes or an hour after about a month or two of training, that's not no progress. That's just your ears are taking time with learning this and with figuring out how to maintain their size. That's still okay. And I've had plenty of clients who were like that and who were like, Lynn, I don't know if this is working for me. I'm gonna give up. And I'm like, just stick with it. And again, sometimes it's taken as long as a year. We get them there though, but their lobes are so much healthier, so much happier. And again, they're not losing jewelry, stuff's not falling out, they're maintaining size. So that is all about naked training and size maintenance for your ears. Yeah, I really hope you like this. I really hope this is helpful for you. Have you heard of naked training before? Have you already done this for your lobes? Is this your first time hearing someone talk about it? I would love to know down in the comments. And if you want me to continue talking a bunch more about stretched ears and ear stretching, let me know. If you're tired of the stretching stuff and you want just more piercing content, let me know that too. As per usual, please hit like, please subscribe, and I am sure we will hang out and chat again soon. Bye.